Palestinian lady, no. She spoke how she wanted. And of course, the host was against the Israeli guy, too. I mean, it's Al
Al Jazeera.
Jazeera. But the Israeli guy makes one of like the most ridiculous arguments ever. So we'll just play the clip right now. It pretty much has to do with law and legality, and then we'll come back to like why it's ridiculous.
The expropriation of land for the settlers has been denounced by the UN, by the international institutions. Do you see the next government in Israel changing course?
Look, Israel is a state with law, unlike many countries in the Middle East. They appeal to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will make a decision. I don't know when, and I don't know what will be the decision. It's in the hand of the court. And in Israel, we obey the law, and if the decision of the Supreme Court will be that we should let the Palestinians to continue to live in these houses, they will. If the decision of the Supreme Court will be that they have to leave the place because it belongs to other people who apply to the court, they will have to leave. It's a legal issue between the two groups. One is saying it's mine, and the other one is saying, no, it's mine. And both appealed to the court. And at the end, it will be decided by the court. Israel is a state in which when the court made a decision, and you never know before the court make the decision what the decision will be, that will be obeyed by, at least by the authorities in Israel, no question about it. So I don't know. And it very much depends what will happen in the court. I have one remark about the issue of settlers that are taking place of Arabs in East Jerusalem. Ironically, and it's almost impossible by nature, the number of Palestinians in Jerusalem is bigger now. Much more Palestinians are living now in East Jerusalem than in '67. So if those people who spoke were out about the policy of taking the places of the Palestinians by settlers and so on and so forth, all these accusations which do not connect it to the reality, how it is that the number of Palestinians in Jerusalem is growing all the time, and Palestinians from the West Bank want to move into Jerusalem. The situation of the Palestinians in Jerusalem is so bad, while so many Palestinians are immigrating from the West Bank into Jerusalem and ask to have Israeli papers. So there is,
All right, but I just,
the reality.
I feel like
Sorry. No, you didn't stop the two other guys. So don't stop me, please.
Go ahead.
It is ironic that what they describe is against the reality on the ground.
Yes. Okay, so I mean, he's obviously talking in the context of the settlements, and this has to be like one of the most ridiculous arguments. Like, I mean, I don't deny that Israel is a country that follows the rule of law, but as it applies to Israelis, I mean, they're the ones who make the law and everything. I mean, to just come out like this and make it seem like Palestinians and Israelis have like the same chance in a court that's going to decide whether these homes should go to Israeli Palestinians, like, has to be one of the most ridiculous arguments I've ever heard. What do you make of that, Sam?
Sure, yeah, and it's a bit of a false argument in a way that, for example, you're arguing about a specific issue, and then somebody argues, well, that's the law, that is the law, and yeah, sure. And we are talking whether if the law is good or bad or sufficient or not sufficient or fair or not fair. So yeah, his whole argument, it's that, and the idea that, again, other countries in the region, I don't know which country he specifically is referring to. Sure, Iraq and Syria are largely in a civil war, so law and order is not everywhere in those countries, but some of Israel's friends, Saudi Arabia, I mean, you can say a lot of things, bad things about them, but they have law and order. You might not agree with their laws and orders, or Iran or Turkey or Jordan, again, a bit, I don't know.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, what was that jab out of nowhere about the neighboring countries?
I mean, it's a bit.
It's just like a talking point that was stuck in his head, I think from back in the day.
I think it's a bit of a dog whistle about the fact that, like, oh, these guys are all Muslim countries
Yeah,
that
Arabs,
are
yeah.
religious fanatics. They don't have laws or
Yeah.
courts. Yeah, so I think that's what comes to my mind. But it's an argument out of desperation because I guess he couldn't probably justify whatever uh, was happening. So he said,
Yeah.
"Well, it's the law, you see, because we respect the law and the process. You have to respect the
Yeah.
process."
Exactly. And you're so right. Even like in a good situation, right? If someone gives you that answer about the law, it is not very satisfying, right? In like a normal situation where both sides should have like equal, you know, equal chances. But in this case, especially, it even makes it
Well,
more
I mean, look,
ridiculous.
this is a bit of a stupid example, like in a way, like it's a bad example that ends the argument. But the slavery was the law of the land.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it okay. But that's
Yeah.
the whole point. We're arguing about things like a lot of things were the law. It was
Yeah.
the law that women couldn't vote. It was the law. you
Yeah.
know.
Okay,
So
but so yeah, so I think I mean, so for a former national security as advisor to the Israeli prime minister and a former major general, he actually makes a second comment in that same video that I find to be even stupider. So except the jab about the rule and law, the other one is that he's like, and what is very interesting for me is that, oh, they say life is bad in East Jerusalem and stuff, but the Palestinian population has grown since 1967 and people are trying to migrate from the West Bank to East Jerusalem. Population grew, yes, from 50 years ago, probably in every single place of the
no, no,
world, no
no.
matter how
Well,
bad the situation was. And nobody said that the West Bank or somewhere else is good. So why is that so shocking? They're also under occupation. Why is it shocking if Palestinians even willingly immigrated to another part in Palestine, let alone that they're probably forced or something and had to go there? So yeah, what were you gonna say?
first of all, East Jerusalem is, I think, better than West Bank, probably. Like in terms of, I don't know. I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
assume.
maybe, yeah,
I don't know. But I would say that the Arab population growth has been higher than the Israeli population growth. And that's one of the things that they say Israelis fear a lot because demographically they're going to be left out, left behind, basically.
yeah,
So, but I would say that's actually, he may be making a valid point in that I always think about. Like the poorer the society and the more under pressure and under difficulty the society, the higher it's usually the higher the number of children they have. And uh, so I probably because of lack of education, lack of sanitation, lack of healthcare for women, that type of thing.
so many reasons, yeah,
Yeah, so because I think Gaza has a massive
yeah,
rate of population growth. So yeah, I think maybe that's what he's referring. Like that's
yeah, I
maybe
know,
that's what needs to be told to him.
but it's
But to
not
be fair,
interesting or
as,
surprising.
I mean, as a former national security to Israeli government and a former general, I mean, you shouldn't. I mean, they brought him on Al Jazeera to basically as a punching bag, and I think he played his role, and he
No, he
probably
was
got.
decent. Honestly, he didn't get like I said, because the amnesty guy didn't say so much. So it's kind of him against the Palestinian, and of course the questions. You could hear in the tone of the question that we just played that, of course, the host was more on the Palestinian side.